So she's got into that. So then we went to the cinema to watch that. And for an animated movie that was aimed more at children, that was just tons of fun, dude. That actually made my list.
How about Ant-Man and the Wasp?
That was last on my list. Ant-Man.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Donut Bag, part of the Pulse Podcast Network and the PodHub Network. In this episode, we have a potpourri of subjects as I talk to Adam from the Pulse Podcast Network about the best comic book movies of 2018. Then I talk to Derek from the Pulse Podcast Network about the biggest stories in the NFL regular season. And I talk to Fred from Gumband. They're the band that performs a song you hear at the beginning and end of each episode. The Donut Bag starts right now. Okay, now to continue our best of 2018, we're going to talk about superhero movies. With me to talk about that is Adam from Pulse Podcast Network. It's at Pulse Pod Network. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. So, are you a big fan of all the superhero movies?
Yeah, dude. Grew up collecting comic books. I remember watching all the old school movies, the old X-Men, the old Batman. And then obviously Marvel and DC have kind of blew up. Well, Marvel blew up more. So I make sure to catch every movie. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, me too. I'm not so much a comics fan, but didn't really read the comics much. But I can try to catch every movie. Have you did you see Aquaman?
It's the one I haven't seen yet. It isn't actually released in my country until the end of this week. So
oh wow, okay. Well, I recommend it. It's
I've heard nothing but good things so far. I've just tried to avoid anything with spoilers.
Oh, I hate that. It's so hard. Like I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and it's so hard to avoid spoilers because everybody just can't. And I'm trying to avoid spoilers on the next Avengers movie.
Oh, for sure, dude. People just want to start talking ideas and theories, and then someone always knows someone that's got an idea or got some inside info of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. So, what were your if you were to rank the best superhero movies of 2018? What was your list look like?
Okay, so obviously we're going to omit Aquaman just because I don't know what it's about. Well, I know what it's about, but I don't know how good the movie is. Obviously, the first one's going to be the Avengers. That film was probably one of the best Marvel films that have been released so far. I thought it was action-packed from start to finish, and it really set itself up well for the next few movies.
Could you imagine what they had to do to bring everybody together? I mean, I don't know how many movies there were between the last Avengers movie and this one. And to bring in all those characters and all those stories and have them all make sense, that's a huge undertaking, and they pulled it off pretty well. It's very impressive.
Oh, for sure, dude. And like you say, they've had to plan meticulously. I mean, if you ever Google it, they've gone in phases, and every phase has been planned on how it's going to interact with each film from that phase, and how all of that phase moves into phase 2. We're currently in phase 3. So the way they've planned it and how well they've casted as well, they've casted fantastically well for every character. It's just been phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, and the interactions between some of the characters were just great to see, like Iron Man and Doctor Strange, or Doctor Strange and Thor, or when the Guardians of the Galaxy got involved, or there's so many neat things. It's like oh, what would happen if these guys got together? It's like, well, we saw that. So and then the other thing is the ending. It wasn't it was kind of like the good guy didn't always win, or this time you actually. I think one of the criticisms of the Marvel movies is maybe the villains aren't so great, but this time there was a really good villain. So
yeah, and the good thing about Marvel is they actually listen to the fans. So when there is a criticism like that, they actually take it on board and work out how it's. I mean, they have to stay true to the comics, but they can always alter storylines where they need to. But no, that was definitely my favourite film of the year. My second favourite would most likely be, I can't leave it any lower than number 2, so it would be Deadpool 2.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was just fun to watch, dude. I mean, Deadpool's probably the most famous Marvel character at the moment anyway.
It was the first Deadpool was so good because it was so different. How many movies have there been with superheroes? Like, I don't know, in the past like 10 years, like maybe, I don't know, 20 or 30 or something like that. But the first Deadpool stood out because it was so funny and violent and R-rated and some, which is you're not used to seeing from a superhero movie. And then Deadpool 2, usually sequels aren't as good, and maybe Deadpool 2 wasn't as good, but just slightly less, but still really good.
And the thing about Deadpool is he's always been that anti-hero, that guy with the powers that doesn't want to do good. And like I don't think anybody could play that role as well as Ryan Reynolds does. Some of the action scenes in it are brilliant. His sense of humor is really true to the comics as well. I want him to start putting, when Deadpool makes the next appearance, I do want him to start putting a bit of his alter egos in there, because in the comics Deadpool's got like 10 different split personalities.
Oh wow!
So that makes it more funny because you never know which Deadpool would be on the screen at any point. So that's something that I hope they're building up to.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds did a really good job portraying it, and it sounded like he really just loved the character and was all about it. So
he was born for that role, dude. He was.
Yeah, he was.
But yeah, that's number 2 without a shadow of a doubt. If Avengers hadn't been as good as what it was, then it should have took number 1. But there's been a few more. I mean, putting the rest in order was a bit more difficult for me. So I'd put number 3 as Black Panther. I mean, did you catch that movie? Did you like it?
I was so surprised. I think Black Panther was amazing. Just such a good story. Such a good story. Another really good villain. It's one of those where, sometimes the villains have are cookie cutters, like, oh, I want to dominate the world or whatever. But this one, he had a point. It's like you could see things from his point of view of why he did what he did. So, yeah, just top to bottom, Black Panther was so good.
Yeah, and it was a good cinematic experience as well. The graphics they put in there and the CGI, they really went to work on it to make sure it looked as realistic as possible. I thoroughly enjoyed Black Panther.
Yeah.
Because they really only introduced him in the last Avengers movie. And during the Civil War, he was introduced into the movie world. So he rose to get his own film very quickly. And he done good, man. I thought that, again, the casting was spot on. Villain was great. Action was really good. And it leads you on to phase 4, because now the rest of the world have got vibranium. They know what about it. So they're going to start incorporating that sort of weaponry during phase 4 and 5, hopefully. Yeah. So that's good. I mean, another film that I really struggled to rank next between Black Panther and this one is Venom. I thought Venom was a very underrated film for this year.
Oh yeah, that one I did not see. I've heard mixed reviews on that.
I was actually away on my honeymoon during when that was at the cinema, so I didn't catch it at the cinema. So I made sure to catch that earlier this week, actually, just to make sure. Obviously, I didn't want to miss it. Great film. Plot was okay. Obviously, Venom's a hard character to play anyway, and especially with the bar that's been set by these superhero movies. Anything less than great is trash.
That's what I said about Aquaman. In my list, Black Panther was number 1, Avengers was number 2, and Aquaman number 3. And in any other, 5 years ago, Aquaman would have been number 1, but the superhero movies have just gotten really just better and better. And so, yeah, the bar keeps getting raised.
Yeah, dude. Where did you have Deadpool?
Deadpool, I had number 4.
Oh, wow. That was a big slide,
But,
Deadpool.
It's hard. I mean, really, you could say all 4 of those movies it could be tied for first. I mean, they were all, like in their own way, just really good. So I mean, I could easily have had Deadpool #1 or anything. To me, they were just so, just those 4 movies were just such in their own group, just so good.
And what Marvel do well is they kind of because obviously a year doesn't seem that long day to day, but when you're thinking in terms of movies, I think Avengers came out years ago and it was early this year. So what Marvel like to do is let a film drop and then wait for its wave. Like, imagine it like a tidal wave. They'll let it rise, and then as it's coming down, that's when they release the next movie to keep the interest in the universe going.
Right.
So thinking backwards, you're always hyped up about the latest movie, and then the movies that came before are slowly pushed back in your own mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I'm dying to see Aquaman. As soon as it's released here, I'm going to go and watch it.
Yeah. I recommend it highly. And really, how about one that I really want to see is that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Have you heard anything about that?
I've seen like adverts and stuff for it. I haven't watched it myself. I haven't seen many trailers either. But it does look good. It's animated, right?
Yeah, it's animated, and that's what kind of turned me off because I'm used to the live action stuff. But I saw a little bit of the story, and it's a very interesting concept.
Have you seen the Teen Titans Go movie? That's animated.
I have not. I have not.
So I've been trying to get my daughter into comic books, and Teen Titans Go's always on Cartoon Network. So she's got into that. So then we went to the cinema to watch that, and for an animated movie that was aimed more at children, that was just tons of fun, dude. That actually made my list.
How about Ant-Man and the Wasp?
That was last on my list. Ant-Man. Look, Ant-Man's a good film, but it's not up to standard with the rest of the movies. Obviously, it's going to have its fans, people that follow the Ant-Man comic books and stuff. But for me, like, he's a novelty character. He fits in well with the universe, and he fits in well with the Avengers, but he's not a solo movie guy for me. I get it. They needed to do it to introduce him, but he's done now.
I so agree. I think as a character, he's really weak. So I totally agree with that. All right, sir. Thank you so much, Adam from the Pulse Podcast Network. A lot of good stuff going on with Pulse Podcast Network. So love to have you on again. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. I'll see you later. The NFL regular season has just concluded, and since it's the end of the year, I figured we could do biggest stories of 2018 in the NFL. And with me to talk about that is Derek. He is at Sportsing Dad. Sorry, on Twitter.
Sportsing Dad.
Sportsing Dad. And with the Celtics Pulse podcast and the Pulse Podcast Network. Derek, how are you?
Doing good, man. Yourself?
Doing all right. From a football perspective, we're a little bit hurting here in Pittsburgh after the Steelers didn't make the playoffs. Very disappointing. But you're in New England area, so the Patriots made it again.
Yeah, that train keeps rolling on, man. That's one thing about it just seems every year you can pencil them in for 10, 11 wins. No problem. Usually more, but, even 11 wins, it seems almost disappointing around here. But we'll take it,
I always complain that because I think I just saw a stat that the Patriots have won, I don't know, like 10 or 12 AFC East championships in a row. And it angers me that it seems like they have, like, the Dolphins, Bills, and Jets just stink every year, and they give the Patriots an easy path to the division title every year. And to me, I hate that. Like, the Steelers have to battle the Ravens every year to the death, or the Bengals or whoever, and the Patriots just get this easy path.
Well, to put the Bengals in there as an example, as a tough team, I think is a reach. Having said that, if you look at the Patriots' record here, again, being from New England area, the Patriots' record against the other divisions in the league is actually better than against the AFC East. There's something to be said about playing a division game on the road, regardless of who it is. You go into New England, I mean, you go into Miami